Let's look at some graphing tips and tricks on Desmos. So let's draw a circle. All right, so we have a circle centered at 2, 0, and maybe I want it to be shaded. So let's make it an inequality. So that says I'm going to shade inside the circle, basically. So if you hit the settings gear, you can change the color. You probably already knew that, but the other attributes are also cool. So this thing would turn the border on and off if that's what you wanted to do. And what this fraction number is like opacity. And what that means is visibility, basically. It goes from 0 to 1. 1, I don't know if you noticed the change, is 100% visible. And if you put 0, it would be put 0% visible. So they start you off at 0.7. You can kind of change the color slightly if you change the opacity. This 2.5 is the thickness. If you wanted to change that, you could change it to something thicker. That's useful sometimes. I don't really like the way that looks, so maybe I would bump up the opacity to 1. Okay, that looks maybe better. And the fill, this number is another opacity number, so 1 would be completely filled, and 0 would be invisible. They start you off at 0.4. You could have any number in between 0 and 1, basically. Okay. So let's talk about, let's have another circle. I'm going to Control-C, Control-V to copy. Now I've got 2 circles right on top of each other, but I want it in a different place. So okay, we've got here. Let's make them overlap a little bit. So let me make that a 9. Okay. I'm going to change that one to blue. And yeah, that's pretty good. Let's make this. Okay. So the way this works is it puts the circles down in layers. And since I did the red one first and the blue one second, the blue one is completely on top of the red one. If you wanted the blue one to be on bottom, you would just make it first. Okay, so whichever one happens last, whichever one you drew last, would be on top of the one that you drew first. If I wanted blue on top, just make it, make blue after the red. That's how that's going to work. Now, let's do a parabola here. Make y minus 5 equals x minus 1. All right, so that's not where I wanted that. Let's put it down plus 5. Okay, that's good. Let's say we want that to be an inequality. So less than, nope, I want it to be greater than, because I want it above the curve, equals, so it's a solid line. All right, now let's change the color to green. Let's change the thickness to 5, and the fill, let's make it 9. Okay. Now, can't really see through that. Oh yeah, you can turn it off if you did that. But settings, let's say, 9. I didn't mean 9, I meant 0.9. 9, anything over 1 is just going to treat like 1. That 9 means 100% visible. So if I put 0.9, that's what I meant to do. You can kind of see through it. That's what happened. Okay. Now, let's say, all right, I want the green one to be on the bottom. Very good. Now, let's say I don't want any of this green to show on the top. So I'm going to restrict the domain. And what I mean by that is the domain of this green one is all real numbers. I don't want to graph all real numbers. And so if I go to this one, I can restrict the domain by picking two numbers that I want it to be between. Let's say I only want to draw the graph between 0 and, what's this, 1, 2, 3, between 0 and 3. So I would go 0 is less than x is less than 3, and that only draws the graph between 0 and 3. So I know this is kind of weird. Look at it if it was an equation. All right, so I'm only drawing that between 0 and 3. You're going to need to use that sum. All right, what else can I do? Oh, let's take this circle. And let's say you want the outline to be a different color than the inside. So let's look at the fill, make that 0.5. Normally when you graph an inequality, you're going to have the circle is blue and the inside is blue or whatever. It's the same color. But let's say you want it to be a different color. So I'm going to copy this equation, Control-C, Control-V. And let's say I have it just an equal sign. So that's only the outside of the circle, not the shading. Okay, so let's do this. Let's turn the blue line off. And so I don't have the blue line. I just have the shading is blue. And a green outline. So that's kind of cool. Another thing that you could do, I suppose, let's Control V, another one of those circles. Let's make that slightly bigger. And let's go ahead and make it 10. And I'm going to make that 100% visible. But let's put it behind the blue one. So what I've done, let's turn the green one off. What I've done is I've made a different color outline. It's kind of the same deal. I did it in a different way though. Instead of doing it with the outline, I put a completely different circle behind the blue one. So purple, blue, it's a little bit hard to see. Change it to green. Oh, the reason it's a weird color is because of the fill. Remember, you can kind of change the color, get a little bit of control of the color by changing that fill. So it would be a good way to mix colors, I suppose. Make that black. Okay. And what do we do? We can, yeah, that's just the outline of the black circle. You've got the outline of the green circle. And make that one, well, that's the same thing as the outline, isn't it? All right, so those are some useful tricks that you're going to use for this project. Feel free to refer back to this as often as you like. Good luck.